I recently heard a story about Silicon Valley workers who say they've given up saving for retirement. They are utterly convinced that by the time they're old, AI will have changed the world so much, no one will need to have money in the bank. You can mark me down as a skeptic of that utopia. But everyone makes some kind of implicit bet about the future, if only that the future's bound to look a whole lot like the present. Our life decisions are affected by the timelines we imagine. Before buying a motorcycle or jumping out of a plane, we've probably all heard someone declare, "You only live once." This is an explicit appeal to a timeline, to an expected future. What they're saying is, I expect that there are a limited number of years left where I can pull off leather. What they're saying is, this crazy risk is justified because I expect to one day be dead, and after that to have no chance for flying lessons. Biologists suggest that this ability to project and plan around a detailed future is one of the things that had made humans uniquely successful as a species. Many animals can plan for winter, but unlike the dinosaurs, we can foresee a meteor coming and invent a way to disrupt its path. We can plan for recessions and floods and alien visitations. Of course, sometimes there can be a high cost if we project the future wrong. I heard about a man who was diagnosed with terminal cancer. He and his wife emptied their bank account to travel the world. They came home several months later to learn there'd been a mix up in the test results. With proper treatment, he would live a long life. Which was certainly good news, but might have been slightly better news if they hadn't already mortgaged the house. I don't know what I would do if I was given a terminal diagnosis. I do know I'd stop answering email, cancel the dentist, and eat a whole lot more french fries. The timeline you're living in always changes the choices that make sense. One of the things that Jesus does for us is offers fresh perspective on our timeline. Jesus says something like this. Imagine that you're the butler or head housekeeper on some big royal estate. The owner, let's call him the Duke, goes away on a long round the world sailing trip. What do you do? Well, the answer depends on what kind of future you're projecting. If you think the Duke is a terrible sailor who's likely to drown in the first week, or spend the rest of his life shipwrecked alone on an island talking to coconuts, here's what you'll do. You will slide down the hallways in your socks. You'll drink the finest wine in the cellar. You'll throw an epic party. You'll announce yourself as the new master of the house and demand that the rest of the servants bring you breakfast in bed and massage your feet if they want to eat tomorrow. But if you think that one day, on any day, the Duke might hop on a plane and come back, you're going to have to make a different set of calculations. You might rightly worry that you could get the boot if he walks in and finds you swinging from the chandelier, or if the other servants report you turned into Mussolini in his absence. The point of Jesus' story is a wise person will attend their timeline. A lot of people, Jesus knows, will YOLO their way through their life, thinking that 73 years, give or take, is all they've got. They'll look around the house and decide that, in the absence of anyone else obviously in charge, they themselves must be the owner, and they'll act accordingly. But Jesus says this is a radical misunderstanding of the human timeline. First, we might only live once, but our choices are playing out on a much longer timeline than most of us are planning. And second, none of us owns the houses that we're living in now. Everything we've got is on loan from someone who will ask for an account of what we did with it. This modified timeline, this change in expectation of the future, alters the calculus of our choices. Because what we do with the time, the goods, the power that's in our hands right now will significantly change our future prospects. There's one future for those who use their freedom to abuse other servants and empty the cellars. There's another future for those who use their freedom to honor the homeowner's desires. Just so no one has to guess here, Jesus spells out exactly what those desires are. The homeowner wants everyone in the house to be safe, to be regularly fed, and to each have a place to honorably serve. The chapter we're living now is only one in a much longer story. This will not be our only chance to taste the wine and throw the party. The timeline is longer than we can imagine. And that means the choices we make right now matter more rather than less. We are opening and closing doors for ourselves in a house that we'll someday live in under very different conditions. Those who make themselves temporary kings and queens will live to regret their presumption. Those who willingly make themselves servants will one day find themselves seated at the table as honored guests. And Jesus says that he himself, the true Lord of the house, will put on an apron and serve them. So, Jesus advises, know your timeline and plan accordingly. You only live once, but you do it forever. Let's hear what Jesus says in Luke 12, beginning in verse 35. Be ready for service and keep your lamps burning, as though you were waiting for your master to return from the wedding feast. Then you will be ready to open the door and let him in the moment he arrives and knocks. The servants who are ready and waiting for his return will be rewarded. I tell you the truth, he himself will seat them, put on an apron, and serve them as they sit and eat. He may come in the middle of the night or just before dawn, but whenever he comes, he will reward the servants who are ready. Understand this, if a homeowner knew exactly when the burglar was coming, he would not permit his house to be broken into. You also must be ready all the time, for the Son of Man will come when least expected. Peter asked, Lord, is that illustration for us or for everyone? And the Lord replied, a faithful, sensible servant is the one to whom the master can give the responsibility of managing his other household servants and feeding them. If the master returns and finds that the servant has done a good job, there will be a reward. I tell you the truth, the master will put that servant in charge of all he owns. But what if the servant thinks, my master won't be back for a while, and then he begins beating the other servants, partying and getting drunk? The master will return unannounced and unexpected, and he will cut the servant into pieces and banish him with the unfaithful. And a servant who knows what the master wants, but isn't prepared and doesn't carry out those instructions will be severely punished. But if someone does not know and then does something wrong, they'll only be punished lightly. When someone has been given much, much will be required in return. And when someone has been entrusted with much, even more will be required. I'm Megan Larissa Good, and this is Reading Jesus. Thanks so much for joining me for a few minutes in Luke, and we'll see you next time.